Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome to Abundant Animal Allies Summit. Key secrets to forging a successful business working with animals. Today, we have the amazing Sarah Jane Farrell, and her title is Don't Think and Grow Rich: How to Serve with a Whole Heart, Embrace the Spirit of Money, and Claim Your Entrepreneurial Power. Sarah Jane Farrell helps women just like you who identify as highly sensitive perfectionists, people pleasers, and overachieving heart-centered rebels to trust and love themselves fully, gain unshakable self-esteem, the confidence to live in their true nature. That means learning how to work with your nervous system so that no matter how stressful it gets in life and throws you a curveball, you can go beyond your trauma. She teaches exactly what you need to build mental resilience, how to regulate your emotions and avoid burnout so that you can maintain a healthy, flexible nervous system. Then you can use your precious energy to focus on what truly matters and finally create the life you love. She has the ability to make complex topics simple to grasp. Her unique integrative healing approach and pragmatic tools, coupled with their ability to show people what they need to know, has changed the lives and businesses of thousands of people and their companion animals worldwide. Sarah Jane Farrell, thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for that lovely intro. It's like, gosh, do I really do all that stuff?
Ooh, you wrote it, baby. Surprise.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of a good segue into what our thoughts do. Right?
Yes, it's beautiful. Well, thank you for bringing all this to us today, because we were just talking off camera about how important the health of our nervous system is and how we work with that. So yeah, where do you want to start?
Where do we want to start? Maybe that's exactly where we needed to go. You know, it's just like we're kind of moving from this hustle mentality. I don't know about you, but it's hard. You know, the collective belief that programming is so strong on the things are so hard right now. And and we're tired. I know I'm exhausted. I know everybody is tired all the time. And it's just like, what if we don't have to do the tired anymore? What if we learn how to relax again? You know, because when we're finding ourselves exhausted, it's because we're hustling and grinding from that old masculine paradigm that's taught us and rewarded us for that. And for me, I think the mastery is really in integrating and developing the masculine and the feminine in business. Because our business is life, right? If our business is living, and what if our only purpose in life is to have fun? It's just like so many of the women that I speak to, and I'm guilty of that too. It's just like, we don't know how to relax. We don't know how to have fun anymore. We don't know when we play. I don't know how to play. Because we've been taught, and it's so ingrained in so many of the women that I speak to that are so talented and so gifted, and yet there is this unconscious operating system that's telling them that if they don't do more, faster, better, quicker than everyone else, so that whole comparison game again, that somehow if they relaxed, for example, then the money's going to go away, or the success is going to go away. You know, there's always something around the loss there. And that's why I think a lot of the grief around money needs to be spoken to as well. You know, the trauma around money and loss and what it looks like, because it's not working. And we need to be on, we need to be happy. We need to love what we do. In order to show up and serve and give generously. And we always have that sort of upper limit as well, don't we? You know, where it's just like, I don't know why they call it a comfort zone, because there's nothing comfortable about it. But, you know, it's so constrictive. And yet we stay in it because what does that say? New level, new devil, but also rather the devil you know than the devil you don't.
True.
So it's that feeling of being so tired And if you think about that hustle culture, right now it's systemically, we've had the Industrial Revolution, and then there was the bigger, the faster, the better, the more, and this consumerism that's kind of draining us. We're looking on the external all the time to validate our worth, and then we get our value and our worth mixed up with money, which are totally different entities altogether, right? And I think I think the good news is that we're really waking up out of that frantic doing, and it's a very internal process. I've definitely been very inward driven this year, and I think we're evolving. We're starting to wake up to different ways to more strategically do life, to do the business of living, so that we can save in a better way. And the only way we do it is by taking those old operating systems that would have sort of unconsciously created that bigger thing of like identity, that egoic thing of who am I without my degree, or without all the initials, or without the big bank account balance, like with all the notes in the bank account. We measure so much of our success and our value in the world by things that are outside of us. And I think it's really important that we start to look at up until now. When I'm coaching, I always say yes, and up until now, even if that was the story, right? If you keep saying that story, that I am, who am I to be all those things? You just think about all the things that we're taught, you can't be full of yourself. Well, if you're not full of yourself, who are you going to be full of? Other people, other people's stuff, right? And money, where does money come from? It's like money comes through people. So if we don't have a good relationship with our own internal dialogue, how are we able to serve and to show up in a way that is compassionate? To start asking those more intelligent questions, like how can I? How can I serve? How can I help animals? How can I put my energy into the things that matter and move me if I'm drained and exhausted because I'm trying to hustle and I'm trying to work harder? And again, it's just like bringing it back to the nervous system. I know that my mother could never relax. It's just like how many generations of women, generational trauma you're lazy if you're not busy all the time, or you've got to work hard for money, as if that validates your own value system.
Right. And the universe doesn't work that way, right? You don't have to, that's not how you manifest anyway. We are the ones that put limits on things.
Exactly. And we inherit them. We inherit those upper limits.
We
do.
And
I've spoken to clients in the past where it's just like they would do so well, and then they'd reach a ceiling and then they'd lose it all, or they could never get past a certain limit. And then when we'd unpack it and get really curious and very compassionate with the parts that we're really feeling, that was the amount my father earned. So it was like almost like if I earn more than my father, I'm dishonoring my father. There's so much in it. And I know for me, my mother is always busy. So I don't know how to relax. I had to learn. I had to and it's an ongoing process, right? It never ends. It's mastering every day, finding the spiritual in the ordinary moments of, oh my gosh, what did I get right today? Or instead of like, I've got so many things on my to-do list. And relaxation to high achievers and perfectionists is death to the nervous system. Especially if you grew up in a family or in a home where there was a lot of heaviness around money, or your parents were fighting about money all the time, or there was never enough. It's just like a lot of times people think they hate money. as children, the child parts, like I really hated money because money meant war in my house. So I would rather not have any money and be happy, except none of that works. So it's so important that I think that we start with that internal work and start to change that story so that we don't keep projecting that into the future, right?
That's beautiful. And would you say this speaks to the same people? Because I have a feeling we kind of work with similar people, but for example, I speak with a lot of women specifically who are so burnt out, as you said, suffering, you have trauma in their past, but are caregivers and they volunteer over here and they help this person, but the energy is never here for them. It's always, and it's almost like, would you say it's like a denial or like, I don't want to do that. So I'm going to, help other people, or is that something different altogether?
I love what you're bringing up. And I love the question. And I think it's a both and, because I think first of all, I think we're one thought away from our own abundance all the time.
So true. Yeah.
And
our own destruction.
Absolutely. And I think that's why it's called waking up, right? because we're already awake. It's like, what am I awaking to? And if that is the archetype, I think that again is the internal work of everybody's talking about trauma. We can get so easily trapped in the story again, which was up until now, right? Up until now. What are you trying to do? You're rescuing. So so kind of my mind's going in a million paces. Because I thought, because you brought up so much. It's like the archetypes, right? The archetype of the rescuer that you were speaking to.
Rescuer, right? Okay.
As long as I'm out there rescuing other people, I feel validated because I was never welcomed in my own home.
Yep.
There's grief there. So into the nervous system, as long as I'm busy helping everybody else, and I think that's a lot of the time why sensitives, I certainly can relate with that as a child, being hypersensitive to feeling everything in the room. The animals were the only safe place where I could just be myself.
Oh, right? God, me too.
Yeah, because they don't carry all the stories.
They don't lie to themselves.
Yeah, and they're not projecting all that onto us. So yes, there is that. And I also think that a lot of the time we have to get very, very curious, but with that compassion to look at where we have unconsciously created the very thing that we're wanting to do. I think that's why we go and do the things that we do in life, because we want someone to have done that for us.
Right. Yes.
So it's like filling yourself up. It's a bit like having a sugar fix, right? The rush doesn't sustain.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? It's an addiction. I mean, we're all the isms are addictions, and I can relate to the workaholism very much myself. In that, and moments where in my practice, I have found myself feeling that I need the identity of who I am being when I am witnessing somebody else and guiding them through their own process. Of course, it makes me feel good. So, it's just like when you come from a place of non-attachment, that's a very different energy that your ego doesn't like. And your nervous system, if you're buying into the story that you're needing the validation, or you're needing whoever it is to get the results, or whatever cause you're doing, if they're not acknowledging you and appreciating you, then you're devaluing your own worth. because you don't value yourself enough to
Right.
not have a point of view, right? It's just like, oh, that's a really interesting point of view. And how am I playing into what's showing up for me in relationship? Does that make sense? Because it was a lot.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. I'm just wondering if there's like, are there maybe like 3 steps to help us get a baby step to start workshopping it on our own? What do you recommend? Are there like 3 questions that we could ask ourselves to help point us in the right direction?
Okay, so my first question, and I'm kind of trying to feel into the energy of that, because what are we talking about here, first of all?
Okay. Yes. All right.
Right?
So in reference to, yeah, there is so much. It is about money, but it's also about self-worth, and I think being present and moving from our heart instead of our head, isn't it?
Yeah,
Or not?
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So what if there is, life is not a 3-step process. And I say that with
You're absolutely right.
all I've ever wanted in all my seeking and my searching and is, could you just tell me what to do here and I'll do it. But if my nervous system isn't feeling safe and I don't believe it, it's not going to change, or it could for a while, and then I'm going to go back to my old set point. So,
yeah,
like I said, there's no end point to mastery of this thing called being human. It's
that's
just
true.
like one big messy experiment. So my first question in that inquiry would be, can I absolutely know for sure that the freedom or the abundance or the validation or the love, fill in the blank, that I want isn't already here?
Ooh.
And then from there, it's like your mind has to go out on this, seeking. It has to go looking for visible proof.
True.
And it's like, oh, wow, hold on a second. I actually do feel free now. And the question would be then, how do you want to play, being the operative word, because we don't know how to play. Because play, right? How do we want to play differently? What if it could be that simple? But we don't want simple, because simple would be ease. It would bring us peace. It would allow us to relax. It would free us up to have more time to just be present in the moment.
Yes.
And this is why I say, don't think, and you will grow rich.
Yes.
The richness is starts inside of you, knowing that you have your own unique gifts and talents and capacities, and you are putting your beautiful big heart into all these things that concern you. And yet we still come to that place of it's not enough, especially when we're working with animals. I mean, you and I are both, and probably a lot of the people listening to this are perhaps considering having their joy of business being supporting animals in some way. So can you absolutely know for sure that you're not already doing that? Is a beautiful question, because then it's just like, okay, then you can start to look at, how can I give more? How can I be more generous? Nature is so generous. Animals are so patient with us. They don't have to try. They don't work at it. It's just the essence of their true nature. Because they haven't had all this projected dumped on them of what we should or shouldn't be doing in the world of good or bad and right or wrong, and the ranking system. I mean, we rank animals as more important, one species more important than the other. Sure. Where, it's just like there's so much judgment and stigma attached to everything. in building our own value, right?
Yeah.
How can you fill yourself up in a way that we're not all saying, oh, I'm so exhausted, I'm so tired, I'm so drained. Because the minute we identify with the I am in that story, we're back in the past, repeating what we don't want. Sort of very paradoxical that we'll avoid, like you said earlier, we'll avoid looking at the very thing that's going to give us the freedoms or the abundance, the clients or the love that we want. Because we're afraid of that we'll never get out of it, or we'll never come up for another breath. And it's like, you know, the trees don't cry. I mean, the birds don't stop singing because their feathers are wet. The trees don't cry when their leaves fall off. You know, oh my God, I've lost all my leaves. Oh wow, I'm such an ugly tree. They're just like, I love that. In the season, aren't they, of like, this is the natural order of the cycle of life. This is the compass directions of, you know, the shamanic way that we speak of. It's like, what direction are you in? What season are you in? You know, it's not always the season for growth. The last couple of years, I've been saying that this is the time of the dark descent. You know, the pandemic. You can't be up. You can't force yourself to be something that you're not, or in a time of something that isn't ready. You know, the dark is a really good place to be. It's the fetus in the womb. It's the seed in the under the soil. And the ripening happens in the places that we're most resistant of.
True. Yes. What's that phrase? The lotus grows from the mud. Oh, there's this big, beautiful blossoming flower, and it has to be in the mud to form and be admired and be all it can be. And there's part of humanity, part of us wants to avoid that pain. And being present and being with our trauma and working through that is ugly, and it's hard, and it's also freeing and amazing and exponentially leaps and bounds forward in your lifetime when you get through it. It's so worth it.
Absolutely. And yet we'll run kicking and screaming away from it. We just want it to end, don't we? because we're told, and yet in the same breath, again, it's the contrast. It's like, I always like to look at the contrast. We're peculiar animals, because we're always kind of in the either or the, instead of the yes and. You know, it's just like, what if you can have all?
Yes.
All, and everything in between, in a space of, I'm worthy, I'm deserving. You know, it's like the deserve. Who am I serving? Well, if I'm not serving myself first to make sure that I'm getting enough rest and I'm taking care of my body and I'm following my body's natural impulse when it needs to rest or it needs to eat or it needs to move, then how can I be that? How can I be that in the witness and in the example for others?
Yeah,
because that's how, it's just like, how do you want to serve in the world? It's no longer about how. We're always looking for the how, and we're always asking why. Why is not a smart question, because it just takes you down the rabbit hole again.
Yeah.
But this abundance is energetically, it's the dance, right? Abundance.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, it's abounding. It's filling yourself up with the primal urge to be a contribution to your tribe, to make sure that your gifts are your gifts and you stay in your own lane. Again, that's something that we've lost with the wisdom of our elders, because we're not asking those questions. It's I love that saying that if you cut all the tall, old, ancient trees down in a forest, the saplings don't know how to grow into trees. And the same as for us. I think it's really about getting back to our roots of a village, of a tribe, of being able to ask for support, because there's a lot of vulnerability in that.
Yeah.
And it's also about having a flexible nervous system, because you're allowing yourself, you're giving yourself permission to feel your emotions. Know that you are the one that thinks the thoughts. You are not the thought, right? Which changes the story of who you are. And then the ego can rest and relax, because your mind is then going to go out on a search and retrieval mission to find out what is it that you require in support, for example, or what is it that you are desiring in this moment that is going to allow you to show up and serve with your whole heart, right? It's heart-led, it's not from the head.
Right.
And when you do that, the money follows. I believe.
I believe that too. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of people who say, and I agree, is that money is the same vibration as love. It's really and I think that's why some of us resist it so much sometimes, with the trauma and all the preconceived notions around it. It's very strange.
Yeah.
But yes.
Yeah. I mean, when I was in Hawaii I was so privileged to be able to go to Big Island about 6 years ago. And I've always worked a lot with rhino orphans, orphan rhinos and elephants in South Africa. And I've always had a really very strong attachment to the elephants and the rhinos, because they're just so gentle. They're just so soft on their feet and so soft on the earth, and they're just beautiful. And then, you know, they remember where they come from, and there's something about them that they told me, I think 2009, that they had taken over from the whales and the dolphins, to heal the separation sickness on the planet with the humans. They were moving into that on opposite. They literally walking the grids and keeping the earth in place, so that we can wake up as a collective. And when I was in Hawaii, because you don't always listen the first time, I always say I'm cute, not bright, a lot of the time. Because the mind gets in the way, right? There come up all these excuses. And the whales told me, probably at the height of, before trauma became a buzzword, 6 years ago, I was really deep in the work, and I have a big program on trauma resolution and grief. And the whales said to me that it was time for me to leave the trauma and teach people how to love themselves again.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, but I didn't listen. I didn't listen, because there was just like everyone was in the trauma, and the work was so important to me, and my ego didn't want to let it go. So I've had a hard time because I like punishing myself. Who doesn't? We're really good at beating ourselves up. Because it's the surrendering, right? Where there isn't anything to do. There's nothing to prove, in just honoring that if that is my guides, or the angels or the whales, doesn't matter what it is, your inner knowing knows what you're here to do.
Yes.
And the suffering comes in the resistance of the simplest things that we need to do. So it kind of brought that full circle.
You did.
What if that is what if the only purpose for us being alive in this moment, at this time, is to follow our joy?
Thank you. I love that. Yes, that's a good closing statement too. I was just going to ask you if you had anything else to add, but I mean, that feels like a good one.
That's the abundance, right? That is
love it.
That's where your abundance is dancing in the joy, dancing in the grief. You know, there's the grief and gratitude are both sides of love.
Mm-hmm. I love that. That's gorgeous.
How can we, I think Ida Prodoff said that, you know, how can we be in a deep, deep appreciation as part of our daily ritual, right? To make the ordinary, the spiritual movement. If we're not allowing ourselves to grieve fully.
Yes.
There's joy in the grief. Have you ever been, you know, it's like how many times when you're grieving with someone and then you just can't stop laughing, right? Because the body is actually doing what it needs to do somatically to release all that feeling.
Yes. That's
and the
beautiful.
So
yes. Yes. I love that. It's so beautiful. Okay. Sarah Jane Farrell, thank you so much for being with us today. Your guidance and your wisdom is just huge. I hope everybody was taking notes. I was. Here's my pen. I'm writing down my stuff. So Sarah Jane, please tell us your website. We're going to have it down below for everybody, and then we're going to get into your free gift as well.
Yeah. So my website is sarahjanefarrell.com. Very simple.
Okay. Yes. Awesome.
Yeah.
And your free gift is amazing.
Oh, thank you. But also in saying that, you know, again, this is the paradox of or the conflictual reality that we're in. And I want to bring it up because I'm feeling it right now, if you don't mind.
Please.
It's just like one of the things that I have to constantly remind myself and my clients is to stop outsourcing our well-being. And it's like, I go, oh yeah, well, it's like, where can you find me? And what's my free gift? And yet, yes, what if it could just be a gift that you can receive, right? This is such a gift, is to have this conversation with you. I love exploring with you and your people. Agreed. But yeah, what if the resourcing is the support, right? Yeah. It's not an outside looking for something that you think you have to be. I just wanted to add that to our conversation.
Thank you. No, that's beautiful. Thank you. I love that. Okay. Love it. All right, my love. Tell us about your free gift.
Yeah. So the free gift is how can I serve you? It's 30 minutes of curiosity that we can just play in this big experiment, kind of like today, to follow the breadcrumbs of your upper limits, to see where you may be blocking yourself. So it's not a coaching session as such, but it's an opportunity, if you like what I said today, to be some support for you, and to give you some care and some love around how you can show up in a bigger way, because we need you now and we can go so much further together than apart. So I'd love to play with you in that arena if that interests you.
Woohoo! And the link for that is also down below, you guys. Sarah Jane Farrell, it has been such a pleasure to chat with you again today. I know we could go on for a few more hours. We got to keep it short and sweet this time. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and your presence here is really appreciated. Thank you.
Well, absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Okay.